Welcome to Cambridge House Live. I'm Bridget Anderson at the World Resource Investment Conference, and Jeff Berwick, the founder of the Dollar Vigilante, joins me. Jeff, let's start off taking a look at something that you said recently, because I want to get behind that. You were saying that we're going through a paradigm shift in the markets, and I think many people would agree with you on that. So tell me your reasons for saying that.
There's so many things going on right now in the markets, it's really almost schizophrenic. And talking about gold is one example. You look at what happened in Cyprus, major problems in the financial system, and you look at things like Bitcoin as well. During that collapse in Cyprus and the total confiscation, daylight robbery of funds of Cyprus, which is going to happen as well in Italy and Spain, it's going to happen throughout Europe, gold barely moved at all. It was up $5 that day, I believe, and the next day was down $5. Bitcoin, on the other hand, was $35, and it went to a peak of $250 during that same time period. So we're seeing all kinds of interesting things, and as well with gold. Well, also, what was very interesting is as gold has dropped recently.
Big drops in April.
Yeah, very big drop, but you can't buy any physical gold anywhere. There's a lot of schizophrenic is the best word for it.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing is a definite segregation between paper gold price and physical gold price. And the paper markets are obviously quite controlled and manipulated. Whether you want to go into major conspiracies or not, it definitely is something going on there, as was shown during that Cyprus escapade. But you can't really explain why gold drops and you can't buy any physical. I think the paper markets and the physical markets are beginning to diverge. And I actually also believe that within the next few years, you probably won't be able to buy physical gold or silver at any price for fiat currency.
Well, let's stick with paper assets, because your skepticism also includes stocks. So what do investors, should they own any paper assets at all?
It's definitely the most dangerous time in human history for capital right now. Many people don't realize, because if you watch CNBC or you watch your typical media, they tend to say, oh, it's green shoots or it's a recovery, but there's major systemic problems that are actually behind the scenes. George Soros said in 2009 that the financial system collapsed. I agree with him, and I rarely agree with George Soros. But all they're doing is papering it over. They're printing money. That's what all these QE to infinity, just printing money, trying to make it appear like the system is okay, but there's actually massive systemic problems with the system. It would have collapsed in 2008 if they didn't just continue to print money, and now all they're doing is printing money to try to make it appear like the system is still solid.
And what do you think is the implication of continuing to print money for that then?
Well,
where do you see this going?
Zimbabwe, Argentina, that's always the case. As you print large amounts of money, it always goes into eventually some sort of hyperinflation.
And you don't think that's too extreme of you?
Not at all. That's exactly what they're doing right now. The Federal Reserve has never printed this amount of money ever in its history. It's been over 10% per year of money printing for the last 5 years. They're manipulating interest rates at 0%. Ben Bernanke has said he's going to keep it there until 2015. I believe they're going to keep it there until the system collapses, because there's so much government debt now at $17 trillion. If they were to allow the interest rate to rise to a normal market level, which would probably be well over 10%, $17 trillion would be $1.7 trillion per year just in interest payments alone. That's almost the entire tax theft, extortion revenue of the U.S. government.
And is this where your interest in Bitcoin came in then? And maybe before we even get started on that, maybe you need to educate us a little bit about what it is.
Sure, I'm really excited about Bitcoin because many people used to ask me, they would say, well, if these fiat currencies are going to collapse, what's going to come in its place? And I always used to say the free market, private enterprise will come up with a solution, whether it be gold or silver or something else. And Bitcoin is the first free market private money created. It's a completely electronic currency. There is no central Bitcoin server, so you can't. The U.S. government right now definitely sees it as a threat. They're trying to shut it down any way they can, but they can't. It's a beautiful thing. It's not based in any one location. It's like a torrent. and there's no way to actually shut down Bitcoin. And so we could actually see Bitcoin become a real currency that people use in their lives.
Well, I was going to ask, what's the practical application of it right now? I mean, are people using it in that way, or are we not quite there?
It's just growing. It started in 2009, which is almost perfect because that was when the last sort of collapse happened. And since that time, it's grown. This year has seen massive growth. You're seeing people all over the world starting to use it, especially in countries where they have capital controls, where the currencies are already advanced to the point where they're in collapse. Places like Argentina, Iran, people are starting to use it. And more and more. And I accept Bitcoin for all of our products that we sell. And I'm very happy to accept it. I'd rather that than fiat dollars at this point.
Really?
Yep.
And do you think that that is gaining momentum quickly enough that it actually really could take off?
Definitely. If you look at the numbers, Bitcoin at the start of 2013 was at $15 per Bitcoin. It rose to 250. It's currently at about 140 per Bitcoin. You're seeing massive uptake and massive amount of interest in Bitcoin, but at the same time, the government's taking a very big interest too because they see this as a threat to their monopoly on money.
Now, you recently, you were about to get involved, or were going to get involved in a Bitcoin ATM, and explain to me what that was.
I'm very excited about Bitcoin, as I just said. So I'm looking to get into any Bitcoin enterprise I can. I'm sorry to say, or sad to say, that because of all the government regulation in the U.S., it looked like it pretty much would be impossible for us to do that in the U.S. We looked into it. We were going to launch our first Bitcoin ATM machine, which would allow people to buy or sell Bitcoins for fiat currency. And we talked to some lawyers and all the same people you always have to talk to, and we were under the thumb of 4 different regulatory agencies in the U.S., the least of which was we would be considered a money transmitter, sort of like Western Union.
Right.
And you need a $25 million insurance bond just to be in that business. This is how the fascist companies in the U.S. keep out smaller competition, and they do it in every single industry.
And do you think then this Bitcoin ATM idea could take off in a different jurisdiction?
Definitely, there's potential, but I think more and more countries around the world are starting to realize that it is a threat to their monopoly on money. There are places that are more open to it, though, and the places in Canada actually recently came out and said that they're more open to it than the U.S. And any country who grabs onto it and actually allows Bitcoin to happen will have an advantage if Bitcoin continues to rise. And the U.S., as usual, will not allow it to happen, and it will continue just another nail in the coffin of them destroying their economy by not allowing innovation.
Now, you split your time between Mexico and Chile right now. Is it one of these jurisdictions, perhaps, that might embrace it?
It's possible. I can't talk to them all. Every country's different, but almost every country on earth now is a central bank, and they have a monopoly on money, and they don't want competitors. And so you could see it go into a place like that and not be too obstructed by the government, but once it starts to get more popular, they'll get more involved and squash it. But the key point about Bitcoin is you don't need a Bitcoin ATM to have Bitcoin, so it can be all done over the internet. The reason we were trying to do a Bitcoin ATM was just to make it easier for your average person on the street to buy and sell Bitcoin.
Well, and I think that's the obstacle right now is that the average person doesn't quite know how to use it practically, or how do I obtain it? And so it's going to be that educational process.
Definitely, and there's hundreds of companies sprouting up around the world, all finding solutions, finding ways for this new currency to thrive.
I want to talk to you a little bit about what you're doing in Chile. You've been just setting up with Gulch. So where are things standing with that? And tell us a little bit more what it's about as well.
Sure. As with many of my philosophies, I'm looking at the Western world as being in decline. All of the Western countries, Europe, U.S., Canada, they all have massive debt, massive welfare states, massive regulation, huge taxes. And in Ayn Rand's book called Atlas Shrugged, she had a concept where a lot of the people who were creating wealth finally got sick of it all, and they went to one place called Gulch. And they just went there. They basically went on strike from being producers. So what we found in Chile is it's one of the most freer countries on earth right now. Very low taxation, very low regulation. They have hardly any government debt at all. And because of that, Chile is booming. So we've identified that as a place to start up a community. And
sounds a little like a commune, though.
You could call it a commune, but it won't be a communist commune. It'll be a freedom commune, a place where people can go. It'll be just basically like a real estate development, but we're trying to attract people who are more like-minded, who really want to escape the oppression of big government from the West and go somewhere new that's actually growing. There's very few places on Earth that are actually thriving right now, and Chile is one of them.
Have you started marketing these? Are they pieces of property then, or?
Yeah, they're basically lots, and you
Yeah.
can build a house on them. And actually, just today, we just announced that we're just starting to sell lots now.
We'll be watching that with interest. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.